Hello dear students, welcome to GDC Classes English. So GDC Prime batch for GPAT 2025 and GPAT 2026 is going to start from 15th July 2024. The admissions are already open for this GDC Prime batch. This course is exclusively designed in English language, especially for South Indian students. So the key features for this course will be you will get 500 plus daily live classes, 1000 plus daily pre-recorded lectures, 23 plus hard copy books followed by daily practice papers and many more things. So enroll for the admission today itself, and for more information you can contact on the given numbers. So get ready for the GDC Prime batch from 15th July 2024. So we have started Margadarshan series for in today's Margadarshan series we are going to see the next part, the part of the capsule, which is the part 2, and in today's class we are going to cover about the soft gelatin capsule and the micro encapsulation techniques. So let's start with today's class. So in the earlier class, we have seen about what are the important specifications, what are the different conditions which are required. So first important thing is about the storage conditions of these capsules. So storage conditions is 100 degree Fahrenheit, that is 35 degrees Celsius. The processing area temperature. Now the storage and the processing area temperature is different. So processing, it should be 22 degrees Celsius. Remember, 22 degrees Celsius again we have seen for the temperature of the metal pins. So that should be 22 degrees Celsius. Humidity means handling of the empty capsule. Now this is important, the humidity, because higher humidity means it has the tendency to absorb the moisture from the environment. So it should be between 35 to 45% in the operating area. Coming to the bloom strength, we have already seen bloom strength is related to the cohesive cross-linking which is present in the gelatin molecule. Cross-linking which is present in the gelatin molecule, that is 150 to 250 gram is the ideal bloom strength or the gelatin strength, and it is directly proportional to the molecular weight of the gelatin. It is directly proportional to the molecular weight of the gelatin. So ideally it should be between 150 to 250 grams. Gram is the unit for bloom strength. Next is viscosity of the gelatin, which is related to the molecular chain length, which is related to molecular chain length of the gelatin. So the ideal value is 25 to 45 millipoise. Ideal value should be between 25 to 45 millipoise. Now coming to the moisture content, we have seen in the difference also. Hard gelatin capsule, it should have 12 to 16% of the moisture content, 12 to 16%. Whereas soft gelatin capsule, because it has plasticizer and it has the tendency to absorb moisture, the moisture content in soft gelatin should be 6 to 10% only. So these are the some of the conditions or important points regarding the capsules. So this was the overview. Now coming to the defects of the hard gelatin capsule, like for example tablets, there are certain defects. Similar defects are there for the capsule also. So the first one is about the color deviation. So relative bad stability of the selected dyes and the pigments. We have seen that colorants are added into the gelatin capsule shell. So if they do not have the good stability, then the color, they may undergo some darkening. For example, here you can see the deviation between two capsules of the same batch, same capsule but different colors. So that is nothing but the color deviation that can be observed. Next is short body or short cap. Similarly, long body or long cap. Ideally, it should be having the same length of cap, body, everything. But there are chances like short body or short cap may happen. It is because of insufficient entry of the body cap into the collet prior to the cutting operation. We have seen there is a operation like cutting operation of cap and body. So insufficient cutting, if it does not go fully into that, if the part remains outside, then it leads to short cap or the body part. So this is the where the capsule, this is about the hard gelatin capsule, where hard gelatin capsules are prepared. So it is the defect there. Similarly, goes with for the long body or cap, it is caused by missing knife, broken knife during cutting operation. If the knife failed to cut that proper length or proper segment of that particular capsule, then the long body or cap may form. Next is about the dots or the specks. Dots or the specks. Here you can see this is a dot. So this is like a defect which is observed. Small fragments of shell walls which is generated during the trimming process getting into the dipping area. If anything goes into the gelatin solution, that will be reflected into the gelatin shell or the shell wall of that gelatin. So if something goes into the gelatin solution, the same it will be formed on the mold or the pins. So that is nothing but dots. Double cap. Loose cap fits over the body of another capsule. If one cap is loose, it will fit into the body of the another. So it is known as double capping. Instead of one cap, two caps will be fit. So that is nothing but loose cap. It will lead to double capping of the capsule. Here you can see more bluish part or the color is there, so that is because of the another cap is fitting over that one. Damaged edge. So here you can see little bit of like rupturing of that ends will be there. So it is caused by a blunt knife. If the knife is not sharp, if it is blunt, then the proper cutting of that edge is not possible, so it will lead to damaged edge. So it is caused by a blunt knife during the cutting operation. During the cutting operation, if the knives are not sharp, it will lead to damaged edge. Damaged print, improper ink viscosity. Now this ink is of the uh, food grade, that this ink is a edible inks. Okay, these are the edible inks. If it is not of a improper viscosity, then it will cause the damaged print. Here you can see it is because of the improper ink viscosity. Next is about the split. Again it is like this only. A little bit splitting will take place, which is caused by uneven drying or uneven thickness. That is the reason viscosity plays an important role to have the ideal viscosity. Otherwise many defects will occur. So this was defects regarding hard gelatin capsule. Now the important excipient, that is a plasticizer, which is generally common for the soft gelatin capsule. It will give flexibility to the capsule. So the ratio of dry plasticizer to the dry gelatin, it is important. It is dry plasticizer to dry gelatin. Plasticizer, it can be any plasticizer, sorbitol or polyethylene glycol or glycerin. These are the three plasticizers. It determines the hardness of the gelatin shell. What is the ratio between plasticizer and the gelatin? That determines the hardness of the gelatin shell, assuming that there is no effect from the capsulated material. Capsulated material means inside what material is there. Okay. Now glycerin USP, sorbitol USP and pharmaceutical grade sorbitol special, and combination of this along with the polyethylene glycol. So these are the different plasticizers which are used. Now important, if the ratio of dry glycerin, now glycerin here is a plasticizer which is the in the formula, to dry gelatin, if it is 0.4 to 1, then it forms the hard gelatin capsule, and it is generally used for the hot and humid areas. For hot and humid areas, okay, its usage in the hot and humid areas. That is the reason we have seen little bit of plasticizer is present in the hard gelatin capsule, that is in the ratio 0.4 to 1. Now as you see, as the ratio of the glycerin or the ratio of the plasticizer is increasing, its softness is increasing. Now here it is 0.6 to 1. Gelatin is constant. We are only increasing plasticizer, that is glycerin. So it is becoming medium. Now the hardness is little bit medium. So it is for the temperate areas. It is for the temperate areas. Now little bit more we are increasing the ratio or the concentration of the glycerin plasticizer, 0.8 divided by 1. So that is a soft. So for soft gelatin capsule, it is 0.8/1. Remember these ratios are important, and for hard, medium, soft, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8. And it is for cold and dry areas. It is not suitable for humid areas. Because of the plasticizer, it has the tendency to absorb moisture. That is the reason it is for the cold and the dry area. So remember, this is the important for the plasticizer. Now formulation of soft gelatin capsule, most of the points are like same. For example, preservatives. Here also preservatives require because it contains water which has the tendency to undergo microbial contamination. So preservative is required and it is added in the ratio of methyl and propyl paraben, which is 4:1. Again, I'm telling methyl means how you will remember. The concentration is 0.2, but the ratio is 4:1. Methyl contains how many lines? 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 parts of methyl, 1 part of propyl. Opacifiers, opaque means it will not reflect the light. Okay, it will not enter, light will not enter. Also, it will increase the acid solubility. So that is a titanium dioxide, which is 0.1%. That is 0.1%. Okay. Next is about the flavoring agent, which is ethyl vanillin. Flavoring agent, so that is 0.1%. Mostly for increasing the solubility, fumaric acid is added. Okay, so here it is given increasing the solubility. Okay, we'll come to that point. So and flavoring agent means it will give flavor. So that is ethyl vanillin. Ethyl vanillin in the concentration 0.1%. Anti-dusting agent. So that is the essential oil. So anti-dusting agents. So up to 2% it is added to produce the chewable. Now chewable and taste, if it is we have to provide. So that is the sugar. Okay, sugar up to 5% can be added. Now here this is important. This is something which you will not see for any other dosage form. So to increase the solubility and reduce the aldehydic tanning of the gelatin. So increase the acid solubility means whenever a patient will take in the acid environment, it has to get dissolved. So in order to increase the acid solubility, we are adding fumaric acid. So the another important role of fumaric acid is gelatin has the tendency to undergo aldehydic tanning. So to prevent that tanning also, fumaric acid is added up to 1%. Next important is to prevent the decomposition of the gelatin. Since gelatin it is obtained from the natural source. Anything which is obtained from natural source has the tendency to undergo decomposition. So that for that reason SO2 is added in the concentration of 0.15%. Plasticizer, again we have seen sorbitol, polyethylene glycol and glycerin. These are the important plasticizers. Retard dissolution of gelatin shell. In normal condition it should not dissolve, so formaldehyde is added. So formaldehyde, that is formalin. Formalin means 40% formaldehyde. Okay, so this is 40% formaldehyde. This is known as formalin. This is the alternative name, remember this one. So it will retard the dissolution of the gelatin. So these are the formulation components of the soft gelatin capsule. Coming to the important evaluation parameters, like tablets, capsule also have these important parameters. Like weight variation test, there should not be difference in the weight variation. Active ingredient contain uniformity of the contained weight and the disintegration test. So weight variation test, for that initially we are taking 20 intact capsules. Okay, 20 intact capsule means without breaking the capsules, we have to take those capsules. They are individually weighed. We have to take the individual weight and then compare with the average weight. So the test is made if none of the individual weight are less than 90% and more than 1. So individual weight of that capsule should be between 90 to 110%. If it do not pass the criteria, then net weight is taken, means we have to open the capsule, the powder inside weight we have to take. Then again these are averaged. The difference are determined between the individual weight and the average weight. So the conditions are met if more than 2 of the individual are greater than 10% of the average, but not greater than 25%. If we are taking the net weight, then two of the individual difference are greater than 10% of the average, not more than two individuals. Okay, the difference should not be more than 10%. And no capsule weight should go beyond 25% of the average weight. No capsules are allowed to go beyond the 25% of the average weight. If more than two are going beyond that weight, but less than 6 net weights determined by the test deviate by more than 10% but less than 25%. More than 10% but less than 25%. If this is the condition, then the net contents are determined for additional 40 capsules. Here we are telling that not more than 2 should be more than 10%. No capsule weight should be more than 25%. But if more than 2 but less than 6 capsules are between 10 to 25%. Then additionally we are taking 40, means initially 20, now 40, total 60 capsules. Now we have 60 deviations from the new average weights are calculated. Now we have to take the average weight of the 60. So the requirements are met if the difference does not exceed the 10% in more than 6 of the 60 capsules. So total we have 60. In that, 6 capsules should not deviate more than 10%. So this, if these conditions are met, then only the weight variation test will pass. And no capsule should be exceeding 25%. So the basic thing is no capsule should go beyond 25%. So that is the basic criteria. And not more than 2 should go beyond 10%. So 10 to 25%. If 60 we are taking, only 6 capsules are allowed, and no capsules are allowed beyond 25%. Then the test will fail. So this was about the weight variation test. Content of active ingredient. Content means, if for example, what is the amount of the active ingredient present in that particular capsule. So it is determined on 20 capsule. Initially 20 capsule we have to take. We have to take the assay. Assay is nothing but checking the active ingredient. Assay gives average drug content of the 20 capsule, which must lie within the average range for content of active ingredient. So it should be between 90 to 110% of the label claim. For example, each capsule contains 100 mg of active ingredient. That means 100 mg if they are claiming, that means it should be between 90 mg to 110 mg. So this is the content of active ingredient. This is the content for active ingredient. Now uniformity of weight. Again 20 capsules are first weighed individually. Average weight after removing the contents, difference of the two weights gives weight of the contents. Not more than 2 capsules should deviate from the average weight of the contents. This we have already seen earlier. So it should not differ from 90 to 110%. So that is the uniformity of the weight. Uniformity of the content. So here it was between the active content, means between the label claim and the individual content. Uniformity means between two different capsules. So for that 10 capsules are assayed, means checked individually the content by monograph, and applicable to those drugs which have a drug content of less than 10 mg. Not applicable to capsule containing multivitamins and trace elements. It should not, this is for less than 10 mg because there it becomes a potent drug. So the drug is potent in that case. So that is the reason we are checking the content of uniformity of the content for the potent drugs, because little bit higher the active ingredient, it will cause the toxicity. Coming to the disintegration, so the DT for soft gelatin capsule is 60 minutes. This we have seen earlier. Hard gelatin capsule, it is 30 minutes. Soft gelatin, it is 60 minutes. Enteric capsule in 0.1 molar HCl. Enteric means the capsule which will release their ingredient in the intestine. So in the acid, it should be stable. It should not disintegrate in the acid. So it should not disintegrate in 120 minutes. So generally that is the gastric emptying time. So that is the reason it is given. It should not disintegrate in 120 minutes because that is the acid condition. Enteric capsule in mixed phosphate buffer, so that is a 60 minutes. Phosphate means the intestinal condition, so that is a 60 minutes. Now micro encapsulation. So earlier we have seen about hard and soft gelatin capsule. Now coming to micro encapsulation, it is a process or technique by which thin coatings can be applied reproducibly to small particles of solid, droplets of liquids or dispersion, thus forming the microcapsule. It is a process of giving a specific coating to these solids or the liquids to form the microcapsule. Now we will see why it is required to give the coating to the capsule. So the size of the particles involved, it will range from several tens to about 5,000 micrometer in sizes. So this is the active ingredient. This is a multi-layer liquid crystalline microsphere which is very nicely coated, the drug which is present. So if we see the outer material, this is a core and this is a shell. So core means the drug or the material which is to be coated, and the coating material means which material which we are using to coat it. So this is a polymer shell and this is active material. So polymer shell is the coating material and active means it is a core material. Application for sustained or the prolonged action medication, to release the medication over a long period of time. Taste masked chewable tablets. So if we coat the active ingredient, it will mask the unpleasant taste. For powders and for suspension, single layer tablets containing chemically incompatible ingredients. For example, if two ingredients are there, one we will add in the core material, other we will add in the coating material. So if they are incompatible with each other, we can give the microencapsulation. One will be in the core material, other will be in the coating material. So in the single tablet only, but like chemically it will be separated. New formulation concepts for creams, ointments, aerosols, dressings, plasters, suppositories, and the injectables. So these are the applications for microencapsulation. Pharmaceutically related area like hygiene, diagnostic aid, medical equipment design, they are also amenable to microencapsulation application. It will improve the stabilization. For example, volatile liquids, certain volatile liquids, essential oils, so they evaporate when come into contact with the air. So it will be dried, free flowing powders with subsequent retention of the liquid core material during extended storage. So these are the applications for microencapsulation. So the process of microencapsulation, basically it involves understanding of the general properties of microencapsules, like what is the nature of the core and the coating material, that we have to understand. The stability and release characteristics of the coated material, we want sustained release, we want control or immediate release, and the microencapsulation method. So this is a core material, the wall material, controlled release. Generally polymers are added for this coating material. It will release slowly over an extended period of time, or we can get some targeted release, or for protection against temperature oxidation. If the material is susceptible to moisture content, or if it undergoes oxidation, at that condition also we can give this microencapsulation technique, and it can be applicable to such materials. Now coming to the core material. So the core material, it is defined as the specific material which is to be coated. It can be liquid or solid in nature. It can be liquid or it can be solid in nature. Not only solid, but it can be like liquid droplets. They can be converted into free flowing powders. So the liquid cores, it is dispersed or dissolved in a material. Solid core means it is a mixture of active constituents, stabilizers, diluents, excipients, and the release rate retardants or the accelerators. So these are the different materials that will be coated. These are the different materials that will be coated. So these are the core materials which can be coated. Now see here, core material, what are their properties, what is the purpose of their encapsulation, and what is the final product form. Okay, so first is the aspirin. We know aspirin. So this is a slightly water soluble solid. It is a water soluble. Why then? Why microencapsulation technique is required? For the taste masking, it is having some bitter taste. For sustained release, to release the drug over an extended period of time, to reduce the gastric irritation in the stomach, for separation of incompatibilities. For separation of incompatibilities, the final product will be tablet or capsule. Once this individual particle of the aspirin is coated, it will become a powder, and then normally it will be compressed into a tablet, or it can be filled into the capsule. So it normal that filling and tablet compression, it will be process will be same, only the coating will be given to the aspirin for these reasons, like taste masking, sustained release. Next, coming to progesterone, this is also slightly water soluble solid. Because of this water solubility, it will dissolve into saliva and it will give that specific taste. So that has to be masked. Okay. So it is for the sustained release, and the final product will be varied depending upon, it can be tablet, capsule, or any other dosage form. Isosorbide dinitrate, this is a water soluble. So what happened? Water soluble means when it will come into contact with water, it will give immediate release, which sometimes may not be required. So to give the sustained release means to release the content over an extended period of time. Microencapsulation with suitable polymers will be given. So generally capsule can be formulated. So these materials can be filled into the capsule. Next is vitamin A palmitate. Vitamin A palmitate. So this is a oil soluble. So that is a non-volatile liquid. Okay. Now we know vitamin A, D, E and K. Vitamin A, D, E and K. So these are the oil soluble vitamins. That means they are generally they undergoes oxidation reaction. They undergoes oxidation reaction. So to make it stable or to make it less susceptible to oxidation reaction, stabilization to oxidation, microencapsulation can be added so that they will not come into contact with the oxygen and it will retard the process of oxidation. So the final product will be dry powder. Final product will be dry powder. So this is the core material, their characteristic properties and what is the purpose of their encapsulation along with the final product. Now comes the coating material. The coating material should be, now these are the ideal characteristics or the features. So it should be capable of forming a film which is cohesive with the core material. Cohesive means it should have the binding property with that core material. It should not have the repulsive effect. It should be chemically compatible and non-reactive because that is something which is going to come in direct contact with the core material. So it should be chemically compatible with the API. It should provide the desired coating properties, like it should have a strength, proper strength, flexibility, impermeability. For what reason we are encapsulating? For example, it should not come in contact with water or saliva. So it should have the impermeability to water, impermeability to oxygen if we are protecting it from oxidation. Then optical properties and the stability. So it should have these desired coating properties. The colorants may be added to achieve the product elegance or the masking, or coatings may be plasticized or chemically altered through cross-linking, which will give the desired controlled dissolution or the permeability. So these are the ideal properties. Now let's see what are the different coating materials. Core materials means are the API which we are generally used for the core material. Now in case of coating materials, some water soluble resins like gelatin, gum arabic, starch, PVP which is polyvinyl pyrrolidone, CMC carboxymethyl cellulose, hydroxyethyl cellulose, methyl cellulose, arabinogalactone, polyvinyl alcohol and polyacrylic acid. So these are the different water soluble. Water insoluble means ethyl cellulose, polyethylene, polymeth acrylate, nylon. Remember nylon, it is polyamide. Polyethylene vinyl acetate, cellulose nitrate, silicon, polylactide, co-glycolide. So these are the different water insoluble resins. Wax and lipids, so that is paraffin, carnauba wax, spermaceti, beeswax, stearic acid, stearyl alcohol and glyceryl stearate. So these are the different waxes and the lipids which are used. So water soluble, water insoluble waxes and the lipids, followed by the enteric resins. Enteric means it will release its content into the intestine, means it will protect from the gastrointestinal fluid, that is hydrochloric acid, but it will release its content into the intestine, so that is shellac. Cellulose, cellulose means you might have heard about cellulose acetate phthalate, so that is a cap. Phthalates, cellulose acetate phthalates and the zinc. So these are the different enteric resins which are used in the capsule material. Now there are different techniques for microencapsulation. First is about the physicochemical method. First is about the physicochemical method, that is done by coacervation phase separation, sol gel encapsulation, coacervation, layer by layer assembly and solvent evaporation. Next is physico-mechanical method. Some uh, machinery parts we are using like pan coating, air suspension method, spray drying, multi-orifice spray congealing and deep coating. So these are the physico-chemical methods. Chemical method means polymers we are using, some complexations, complexing agents we are using, and in situ polymerization polymers we are using. So these are the different techniques. Now next is about the mechanism of micro encapsulation. Now here important is what is the process of that microencapsulation, what is the material which can be coated, what are the applicable core materials, and what will be the approximate size. This is important. So first about the air suspension method. So it is applicable for the solid materials. For example, if your API is in the solid material, it will be easy for the coating using the air suspension method. And the approximate particle size, this is important. Size is very important. So it is 35 to 5000 micrometer size we can achieve using air suspension method. 35 to 5000 micrometer size we can achieve using air suspension method. Next is about the co-acervation or phase separation method. Co-acervation or phase separation method. So generally it is applicable for solids as well as liquids. So liquids will be converted into droplets using atomization, and then these droplets will be coated using phase separation or co-acervation technique. So the approximate particle size or approximate droplet size that can be achieved is 2 to 5000 micron. 2 to 5000 micron. So remember, they may ask you like air suspension is applicable to solid, liquid, both A and B, like that. So remember, co-acervation phase separation for both solids and liquids. Multi-orifice centrifugal method. So the name itself suggests it is based on the centrifugation phenomena. So it is also for solid as well as liquid. So the particle size which can be obtained, it is 1 to 5000 micron. So remember, in all of them, what is common is the particle size, the highest particle size, it is up to 5000 micron. Only spray drying and spray congealing will give up to 600 micron. They will give up to 600 micron. Next is about the pan coating. So they are applicable for the core material, that is a solid. So it will be around 600 to 5000 micron. It will be around 600 to 5000 micron. 600 to 5000 micron. Remember, these sizes are very important. Next is about the solvent evaporation technique, which is applicable for both solids as well as for the liquids. The size which can obtain is about 5 to 5000 micron. So for all of them, up to 5000 micron, the size can be obtained. So 5 to 5000 micron. Next, coming to spray drying and spray congealing. So they are applicable for both, that is solids and liquids. They are applicable for both solids and liquids. What are the approximate particle size that can be obtained? That is 600 micron. That is 600 micron. So this is about the mechanism and what are the applicable core material for different microencapsulation materials and their approximate particle sizes. So this was about the soft gelatin capsule and microencapsulation technique. We will see the next important topic in the upcoming session. So again, the GDC Prime batch will be starting from 15th July 2024 for the upcoming GDC batches of GPAT 2025 and GPAT 2026. So the admission for this batch is already started and you can enroll for the GDC Prime batch. This course is in the English language, which is specially designed for the South Indian region, and you will get many more things, including our daily live classes, pre-recorded lectures, followed by the daily practice paper, so that your doubts will also be cleared using those MCQs. Along with the video lectures are there and other important things. So for more information, you can enroll and contact on the given numbers. So enroll yourself for the GDC Prime batch, which is going to start from 15th July. So thank you so much. We will see the next important topic in the upcoming Margadarshan series. So thank you so much.